Quiet Math. Prologue. Welcome to the pattern. You ever look around and think, why does everything feel kinda off? Like the world is running on code, but nobody remembers the damn password. You're not crazy. You're just paying attention. See, the game wasn't built for you to win. It was built for you to play. Forever. With rules you never agreed to. And when you finally ask questions, they pat you on the head and say, "You're doing great, champ. Just keep consuming." Welcome to Quiet Math. It's not flashy. It doesn't scream. It hums in the background like a bad remix of your parents' divorce and your boss's motivational emails. It's the algorithm of control, psychological, economic, emotional. And it's so elegantly stupid that it makes perfect sense once you see it. George Carlin told you, it's a big club, and you ain't in it. Rick Sanchez said it straighter. Nobody exists on purpose. Nobody belongs anywhere. Everybody's gonna die. Come watch TV. And John Stossel tried to warn you with a mustache and a chart. You were trained to chase meaning through work you hate, using money you don't understand to impress people who don't care. You were told that being a man means listening, apologizing, folding towels, and then apologizing for how you folded them. And you nodded, like a good boy. This book isn't for good boys. This book is for the guy who hears the gears clicking in the background and thinks, wait, this feels rigged. Spoiler, it is. You've been running on Quiet Math, a silent algorithm that turns labor into leash, love into leverage, and culture into compliance. But now we decode. You won't need a tinfoil hat. You'll need a calculator and a sense of humor. Because once you see the numbers, you'll never unsee the joke. It's time to read the footnotes of civilization and laugh your way out of the cage. File 001, the 10% equation. Who's holding the world up while everyone else thinks they're special? Let's get one thing straight. The world doesn't run on good intentions. It runs on diesel, dirt, and dudes who know how to fix shit. Look at the numbers. Globally, somewhere between 10 to 20% of humans actually produce the essentials: food, buildings, energy, tools. You know, reality. The other 80 to 90%, they're either pushing paper, scheduling meetings about feelings, or writing LinkedIn posts about how emotionally exhausting their pivot to brand synergy has been. This isn't an insult. It's logistics. Without the 10%, everything collapses. No food, no homes, no plumbing, no heat, no TikTok, and definitely no Wi-Fi signal strong enough for your emotional support podcast. But guess what? Nobody gives a shit about the 10%. They're invisible, disposable. The punchline to every sitcom, and the last to get thanked during corporate luncheons, if they're invited at all. You know what the real joke is? The system needs them more than anyone, but values them the least. The pyramid, realigned. Here's the hidden pyramid scheme. Top, people who own the rights to other people's time: banks, corporations, asset holders. Middle, people who manage the illusion of productivity: managers, marketers, consultants, influencers. Bottom, the 10% farmers, builders, truckers, welders, code monkeys, repairmen. Now flip it upside down, because that's reality. Without the bottom, the rest starve in luxury. Doug Stanhope said it best. If you're not necessary during a disaster, you're not necessary. Try firing a trucker and see what happens. Now try firing a brand ambassador. One ends society. The other just makes lunch quieter. The Quiet Math. Want hard numbers? Here's the reality. Around 26% of global labor works in agriculture, manufacturing, construction, or logistics. And that's being generous. Subtract the paper pushers, the regulators, the HR departments, the diversity and inclusion officers with nothing to include, and you're at maybe 10% keeping it all functional. That's 1 in 10. The rest? Mostly consumers, disguised as contributors. And yet, the 10% are told they're privileged, they need to be nicer, they should listen more. To who? To people who don't know how to change a tire. That's quiet math, where the less you do, the more authority you're given. Where the people who hold the world up are shamed, taxed, and told they're obsolete. And the worst part, they believe it. Until now. File 002. The happy wife construct. The neutering of man through a smile and a slogan. Happy wife. Happy life. Say it again. Say it slowly. Happy wife. Happy life. Sounds harmless, right? Like something embroidered on a pillow at a Cracker Barrel gift shop. Like advice your uncle gave you between beers and regret. But here's the truth. That line is emotional ransomware. Once it's installed in your psyche, it rewrites your entire operating system. What does it mean? It means shut up, fold, agree, nod, and smile or suffer. It means the path to peace is through compliance. It's not a relationship. It's a hostage negotiation with scented candles. Enter the sitcom matrix. Where did this line come from? The same place all mind viruses do. Media repetition and emotional payoff. Enter the sitcom husband. Fat, stupid, lovable loser. She's hot, tired, smarter. He's late, forgetful, and incapable. Laugh track. You've seen this lineup. The Simpsons. Homer's an idiot. King of Queens. Doug's a bigger idiot. Everybody loves Raymond. Raymond's a passive-aggressive idiot. Family Guy. Peters. Legally dead inside. Pattern? Every man's a buffoon. Every woman's the exhausted genius with a job, a plan, and a patience quota. That's not representation. That's a programming script. You laugh long enough, you start believing it. And then you start living it. How the psyop works. Here's the mechanics. 1. Humor disarms the message. It's just a joke. Until you repeat it and live it. 2. Repetition becomes principle. You hear it from sitcoms, movies, ads, your coworkers, your dad. It becomes culture. 3. Principle becomes law. Disagree with the message. Now you're toxic. You're controlling. You're abusive. Even if all you did was say, "No thanks, I don't want to talk about throw pillows tonight." What used to be partnership has become positioning. And the positioning is simple. She's the CEO of the house. You're the unpaid intern with sex-based access to the building. Transactional masculinity. Look at the legal system. Look at divorce courts. Look at custody stats. Look at domestic dispute arrest ratios. There's a pattern. You're the utility, the ATM, the sperm donor, but only if you smile. The cost of masculinity? Obedience. And the reward? You get to live in a house you paid for with someone who thinks you're a child. And if you speak up, boom, you're now part of the problem. Carlin said. That's why they call it the American dream. Because you have to be asleep to believe it. Same with this line. Happy wife, happy life only works if you're unconscious. But now you're waking up. And when you do, you stop playing sitcom roles in a rigged stage play. File 003. The Work Trap. How employment became the new plantation with free Wi-Fi and a pizza party. Let's say it out loud. Your job is not freedom. It's just a slightly more polite form of ownership. But I chose this job. Sure, you chose from a menu handed to you by people who own the kitchen. This isn't a conspiracy. It's capitalism with a dress code. And they'll even let you wear jeans on Fridays, as long as you stay useful. The illusion of choice. Here's how it works. 1. They train you in school to sit still, raise your hand, and memorize irrelevant crap. 2. You're told to go to college, where you pay 6 figures to become employable. 3. You're dumped into the workforce, buried in debt, and now you're grateful to make $24/hour managing shipping labels and smiling through HR seminars about team spirit. Congratulations. You're now free. As long as you don't say anything out of line, take too long of a lunch, or have thoughts that interfere with quarterly goals. You traded your time for a cage. And you think it's a home because it has a thermostat and a break room. The currency of control. Let's do some simple, quiet math. You work 40+ hours a week. You spend another 10 hours commuting, prepping, decompressing. That's 50 hours of your life per week, just to keep the lights on. Now multiply that by 50 weeks a year. Then multiply that by 40 years. Now ask yourself, how much of your life did you sell for the illusion of security? And what did you build? Doug Stanhope said it. Your job is just something that keeps you too tired to do anything else. He wasn't kidding. The system keeps you busy enough to not revolt, tired enough to not question, and distracted enough to not care. And just when you start thinking, there has to be more, they offer you promotion, a slightly bigger cage, with a better title on the nameplate. Skills versus jobs. Here's the key. Jobs are rented. Skills are owned. Jobs come and go. Bosses change. Companies fold. But if you can build, fix, weld, wire, code, farm, teach, sharpen, or lead, you own something real. And real value doesn't need HR approval. The goal isn't to get rich. The goal is to be unfireable. To walk away when the leash gets short. Because here's the truth they'll never tell you in college. The real economy isn't degrees. It's utility. And if you're useful, you can name your price. If not, you'll compete with AI for the rest of your life and thank them for the chance. File 004. The Math of Misdirection. How truth becomes a lie without changing a single number. Let's start with a motel story. You know it. 3 guys rent a motel room for $30. Manager realizes there's a discount. It's only $25. Sends the bellhop back with $5. Bellhop thinks, can't split 5 3 ways, pockets $2, gives each guy $1 back. So each guy paid $9. 3 multiplied $9 equal $27. Bellhop kept $2. 27 plus 2 equal 29. Where's the missing dollar? Your brain stalls. You replay it. You swear the math checks out. But it doesn't. That's the whole point. You weren't lied to. You were sequenced. Welcome to the economy. The system runs on framing. Here's what they don't tell you in school. You can say all true things and still manipulate the outcome. That's what media does with stats. That's what banks do with contracts. That's what taxes do with your paycheck. You think you're getting the facts. You're getting the framing. Same ingredients, different plate. It's not just about lies. It's about optics. The math isn't wrong. It's just aimed at your wallet. Real-life motel tricks. 1. Income tax. You earn $50K. They say, we'll only take 22%, but add in payroll tax, sales tax, property tax, gas tax, phone surcharges, fees that look like taxes but are regulatory offsets. You're not taxed once. You're taxed 7 times. And when you do the actual math, you're keeping maybe 55% of what you earn. But they show you that sweet take-home pay on your stub like it's a gift. It's not a gift. It's what they didn't take. 2. Inflation. They say inflation is only 3%, but food is up 12%. Gas is up 15%. Rent is up 30%. The math isn't wrong. The metric is. They measure inflation by what they say matters, not what you actually buy. That's like saying, we adjusted the temperature by 1 degree while your house is on fire. 3. Interest and loans. They offer you a low APR. You feel smart. But the contract, buried in 28 pages of microscopic disclaimers and floating rate clauses. You thought you signed for $50K. You're paying back $81K. That's not finance. That's slow motion robbery in Helvetica font. The misdirection game. You were taught math in school, but never taught what math actually does in the wild. Here's the core formula. Sequence plus omission plus framing equal consent. You say yes because nothing sounds wrong, but your wallet bleeds out, smiling. Carlin warned you. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged, and nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. They don't need to lie. They just need you to keep counting the wrong dollar. File 005. Buckets of dirt. The parable of leverage, or how you dug 20 buckets and still got screwed. Here's how it goes. You want dirt. I've got arms. I start digging. You say, I'll give you $1 for every bucket you fill. Sounds fair. I bust ass all day. 20 buckets. $20. Next day, same thing. Day after that, still $20. Then I hit a wall. I can't dig more than 20 buckets a day. I'm maxed out. So how do I make more money? Easy. I find Joe. I offer him 75 cents a bucket. Joe digs. I keep the spread. Now I'm not digging. I'm directing. And just like that, I've stopped trading sweat for cash. I've built leverage. Here's the kicker. I didn't get stronger. I didn't work harder. I just knew how to arrange reality. That's the entire economy right there. It's not about labor. It's about structure. It's about who owns the shovels and who owns the idea of the dirt. This is how the world runs. You've been taught that hard work pays off. Sometimes it does. But clever work, positioned work, ownership, that's the real kingdom. The guy laying the bricks, hourly wage. The guy selling the bricks, profit margin. The guy licensing the patent on the brick formula, royalty checks. The guy taxing the whole operation, untouchable. You want to escape the system? Stop fighting for buckets. Start controlling flow. The flow of effort. The flow of capital. The flow of knowledge. Doug Stanhope said, we're peons in a shell game, and the cup never lifts. Unless you're holding the cup. Quiet math. Applied. This is what the elites understand. Labor is cheap. Knowledge is currency. Leverage is the algorithm. They don't need more hours. They need more others. That's how corporations run. That's how banks print. That's how politicians talk about hardworking Americans while living off taxes from laborers they've never met. They sell you dirt you dug yourself. And here's the magic. You thank them for the opportunity. No more. Files 6. Emotional leverage and the masculine disconnect. How shame replaced strength and feelings became the fence. You don't need a whip to control a man. You just need to convince him that his instincts are offensive. You start young. Don't be so rough. Use your words. Stop playing so aggressive. Apologize for hurting her feelings, even if you didn't mean to. You keep it up for 20 years, and boom. You've neutered the primal without drawing blood. Masculinity as a pathology. Somewhere along the timeline, man became a diagnosis. You're not driven. You're toxic. You're not logical. You're emotionally unavailable. You're not protective. You're controlling. You're not leading. You're threatening. And so, the male instinct to build, challenge, compete, protect, it doesn't get redirected. It gets repressed. Repression turns to shame. Shame turns to silence. Silence turns to surrender. Now you've got a society of men who apologize before they speak, nod before they understand, and fold before they've even been asked to. And what's the reward? A gold star, a pat on the head, and maybe, a compliment like, "He's one of the good ones." Carlin warned you. They want obedient workers. People just smart enough to run the machines, and just dumb enough to passively accept it. But now they've updated it. They want emotionally housebroken men. Smart enough to install IKEA furniture, dumb enough to think it's empowerment. The language of surrender. Look at the phrases that dominate male spaces now. I'm just trying to do better. I'm learning to hold space. I want to be a better ally. I'm working on my triggers. These aren't growth statements. They're compliance scripts. They don't build strength. They build access permission. They say, "I'll stay soft if you let me stay included." The real cost. Meanwhile, male suicide rate, nearly 4x higher than women's. Workplace deaths, over 90% are men. Custody battles, 80% favor the mother. Homelessness, over 70% male. And you still think you're the oppressor? No, you're the engine that's been convinced it's the exhaust. Doug Stanhope said, "We're the disposable gender. It's our job to suffer quietly so everyone else can live comfortably." But here's the quiet truth. You're not broken. You're misdirected. You've been taught to fear your power instead of mastering it. No more apologies. No more folding. No more good boy cookies for walking on eggshells. You are not toxic. You are essential. You just forgot how loud your silence has become. File 007. Silent weapons for quiet minds. How the algorithm keeps you tired, distracted, and compliant. You ever notice how you never really feel rested anymore? Not tired like you need a nap. Tired like your soul's been scrolling too long and your will to resist is buffering. That's not depression. That's design. Because in this system, silence is dangerous. Stillness is where ideas happen. And ideas? Those are fatal to control. So what do they give you instead? Binge watching, news alerts, push notifications. You might like infinite scrolls, 3-second dopamine hits, 24-hour outrage cycles. You're not free. You're overstimulated. That's the modern leash. The weapon is your own brain. Let's break it down. Dopamine plus novelty equal addictive compliance. You're trained to crave interruption. And then, once you're addicted to it, they feed you content that's filtered, curated, and algorithmically engineered to shape how you think without you ever realizing you've been touched. You think you're choosing. You're not. You're being offered a maze of options that all lead to the same mental place. Exhausted, compliant, passive. The new church of infinite distraction. They don't need to burn books anymore. They just need to bury the truth under a billion cat videos, self-care reels, and which Disney villain are you? Quizzes. Meanwhile, while you're watching your fourth video on 5 ways to boost your morning routine, the global financial system is rewriting the contract on your future. But you won't notice. Because your screen just told you you're 78% similar to Ursula from The Little Mermaid. And that's emotionally important right now. Rick Sanchez said, "Sometimes science is more art than science, Morty." A lot of people don't get that. Same with control. They don't silence you with guns. They silence you with playlists. Loops, likes, and learned helplessness. They create. Loops. You check your phone because it might matter. It never does. But you keep checking. FOMO. If you unplug, you might miss something. You will. It won't matter. Distraction anxiety. You can't even stand in line at a grocery store without tapping your screen, just to feel tethered to something. Why? Because they've taught you to fear stillness more than noise. And that's the real war. Not against your body, against your bandwidth. Because once your mind is full of nothing, you'll accept anything. Carlin again. They don't want people capable of critical thinking. They want obedient workers. And what's the best way to make someone obedient? Never give them time to think. Files, word games, and the ownership of thought. How vocabulary became the real virus. You ever wonder why everything suddenly needs a label? You're not tired anymore. You're burned out. You're not heartbroken. You have attachment trauma. You're not drinking too much. You're in recovery. You're not confused. You're processing. Sounds helpful, right? It's not. It's branding for dysfunction. Because if they name your pain, they own the solution. Welcome to the linguistic prison cell, where the bars are made of therapy terms, and the warden smiles gently while handing you another diagnosis. Word inflation equal thought deflation. This is what George Carlin warned us about when he said, "Smug, greedy, well-fed white people have invented a language to conceal their sins." That's what this is. It's not growth. It's sedation. Example: shell shock, battle fatigue, post-traumatic stress disorder. Every version sounds softer, but the suffering, still the same. You're not fixing the wound. You're giving it a brand name. The business of pathology. Here's the trick. Once you label everything as a condition, you never have to solve it. You just manage it. Forever. Because healing doesn't make money. Repeat customers do. So they feed you words like coping mechanisms, self-care routines, safe spaces, triggers, and they wrap them in bright packaging, podcasts, and $129 online courses. It's not psychology. It's subscription-based identity. You're not getting stronger. You're getting indoctrinated into emotional consumerism. Diagnosed by design. Ask yourself, why is every third person suddenly neurodivergent? Why is every bad day a disorder? Why does every relationship flaw need a Greek-sounding condition? Because once you start using their terms, you start living their framework. You don't question your pain. You categorize it. You don't overcome your habits. You accommodate them. That's not therapy. That's programming. What they don't teach you. They'll give you 37 names for anxiety. But they won't teach you breathing, nutrition, discipline, boundaries, or solitude. Because those are sovereign tools. And sovereign people don't buy as much shit. Doug Stanhope put it clean. The worst thing to be is smart and poor. You'll never stop being angry. Now they don't let you get smart. They let you get self-aware. Just enough to stay broken in HD. File 009. The algorithm of obedience. How predictive design, debt, and dopamine rewired your freedom. Welcome to the part of the system that doesn't scream, doesn't knock, and doesn't need your permission. It doesn't show up at your door with handcuffs. It shows up in your recommendations. Based on your recent activity, we thought you'd like another box to live in. This isn't Orwell. This is UX design. Control by design, not dictatorship. Your world is built to guide behavior without you knowing you're being guided. Swipe right. Dopamine hit. Buy now. Instant gratification. Debt. Monthly obedience. They're not censoring your thoughts. They're curating your options. You don't need to be told what to think if the menu never shows what matters. Rick Sanchez said, "Your boos mean nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer." That's this file. Your obedience score. Here's how they rank you without ever using the word rank. Debt level. Keeps you grateful for your paycheck. Job title. Determines how often you're allowed to say no. Credit score. Your behavioral report card for the banks. Engagement analytics. How easily you can be sold or baited. Health profile. Determines your insurance, your meds, and eventually your risk classification. You're not a citizen. You're a dataset in a behavioral grid. And if you ever try to push back, your post gets flagged. Your account gets throttled. Your funding dries up. Your reputation is reassessed. The obedience economy. Let's be clear. Your credit card is not a tool. It's a leash. You think it gives you freedom. It actually guarantees participation. Try opting out of a bank. Try buying land without credit. Try living without a digital identity. Go ahead. I'll wait. The whole system is built so that independence becomes illegible. If you're not predictable, you're suspicious. Nudged into normal. And here's where it gets surgical. Algorithms aren't just predictive, they're prescriptive. If you linger on negative content, they feed you more. If you show curiosity about freedom, they show you warnings. If you get angry, they give you something to argue with, never anything to build with. This is quiet math. Input, behavior, nudge, response, shape, personality, reinforce loop. You are now your own warden. And you update the software daily. Carlin again. The owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it. So, wake up. File 010. The Holy Illusion. Democracy and Choice. Why voting feels powerful and still changes nothing. You've heard it your whole life. Your vote counts. This is a democracy. If you don't like it, vote them out. Sounds empowering, right? Like yelling at your landlord while still paying rent. Like switching the color of your cage and thinking that makes you free. Welcome to the illusion of choice. Two wings, same bird. Let's break it down. Left, right, red, blue, Coke, Pepsi. You're offered teams, not solutions. Each one funds war, prints money, grows debt, sells surveillance, props up central banks, bails out billionaires. But they'll fight over pronouns and statues because that's what keeps you distracted long enough to vote for your own leash again. Doug Stanhope nailed it. The election is like a tiebreaker in a hostage situation. Manufactured consent. You don't choose the system. You choose from the pre-approved menu inside the system. Real dissent doesn't get a mic. It gets labeled dangerous, misinformation, or non-compliant. Try running as an independent in a rigged media landscape. Try questioning war spending on national TV. Try refusing to pick a side. You won't be jailed. You'll just be erased. That's soft censorship. It doesn't burn books. It just buries them under 10,000 cat videos and scandal articles. The puppet show. Here's the formula. Give the peasants two options. Make them hate each other. Let them vote. Tell them they chose it. Keep running the empire. It's not new. It's not American. It's Roman high def with Wi-Fi. The emperors used bread and circuses. Now we get subsidies and Super Bowl ads. You think you're participating? You're a heat map on a social trends dashboard. Carlin, again, because the man saw it coming. Forget the politicians. They're put there to give you the illusion of choice. You don't have choice. You have owners, and they're not worried about your vote. They're worried about your clarity. File 011. The dirt game. Why the guy with the shovel never wins, and the one with the plan never digs. Here's the parable again, carved in stone. You want dirt. I've got a body. You offer $1 a bucket. I dig 20 buckets. $20. Next day, I hit a limit. I can't dig faster. So I hire Joe to dig for 75 cents a bucket. Then I sell that dirt back to you for $1 a pop. Boom. I'm making money without labor. I'm not a worker anymore. I'm a leverage operator. That's capitalism's holy code. Own the process, not the effort. The rules you weren't taught, we were all raised on. Work hard and you'll succeed. What they left out is, unless someone else owns the pipeline you work in, you can be the best welder alive. If someone else owns the shop, you're capped. You can grow food all day. If someone else owns the land, you're renting your own yield. You can build apps. If the App Store owns the gateway, you're begging for shelf space. This is quiet math at its most savage. Not domination. Delegation of profit through layers of illusion. Business school's dirty secret. MBA programs won't teach you how to work. They'll teach you how to make other people work for you. Use this formula. Labor multiplied ignorance equal ROI. Then add a licensing fee, a brand name, a contractor model, some legalese. Now you're selling buckets of dirt you never touched. Rick Sanchez said, "Don't break your back for the system, Morty. Build your own damn portal gun." Exactly. And here's the kicker. You're not being oppressed with guns. You're being priced out of sovereignty. Try owning land without credit. Try farming without regulatory permission. Try selling outside the merchant platforms. Try speaking without being indexed, ranked, filtered. You'll find out fast. Freedom isn't outlawed, it's outlicensed. Knowledge is the lever. The guy digging needs muscle. The guy hiring needs math. Because once you control the information flow, you own the labor flow. Once you own the labor flow, you print the profit. That's how billionaires are made. Not by working more. By understanding where everyone else is bleeding and monetizing the patch kit. File 012. Recalibration protocols. How to delete the algorithm from your mind, one line at a time. You've seen the cage. You've seen the code. Now here's the truth. The door was never locked. It was just painted to look like the sky. This file isn't motivation. This is debugging. It's how to start cutting through the fog, unplug from noise, and reprogram your lens, not to survive the system, but to see past it. Let's go. Step 1. Kill the feed. If you're still hooked to social media like it's an umbilical cord, you're not awake. You're Wi-Fi lucid dreaming. Start the purge. Unfollow all outrage accounts. Turn off notifications. Remove 90% of apps. No phone within reach for first/last hour of the day. You're not deleting dopamine. You're reclaiming directional thought. Rule. If it didn't make you sharper, calmer, or more sovereign, cut it. Step 2. Reclaim frame control. Right now, most people live in reaction mode. Headline: React. Email? React. What do you think about this? React. But reaction is just outsourcing your nervous system. Frame control means you set the lens before the world sets it for you. Simple rituals. Right before reading. Speak only after a 2-second delay. Ask, what's the frame here? Before you respond to anything. This isn't detachment. This is firewalling your identity. Step 3. Build useful skills. Not hobbies. Not busy work. Useful. Sovereign. Repeatable. Sellable. Ask, could I trade this for value without a corporation? Could I offer this in my local area without a middleman? If yes, lean in. If not, it's entertainment. Skills kill control. Because no system can own a man who knows how to fix, make, lead, build, teach, and solve. Step 4. Private over popular. Privacy isn't paranoia. It's power. Get off Google. Use Brave. Use encrypted email Proton. Tutanota. Pay in cash when possible. Delete cloud dependence. Store your own damn passwords. They don't fear your voice. They fear your invisibility. If they can't track you, they can't monetize you. If they can't monetize you, you're not useful to the machine. That's the goal. Step 5. Define your North Star. If you don't have a personal mission, the system will assign you one. Consume. Cope. Comply. Your job. Write your own. It can be simple. Build sovereignty. Become ungovernable. Lead without fear. Provide value to those I love. Your life is code. Either you write it or you run someone else's. Rick Sanchez would say, the universe is just a simulation with better graphics. Don't be a non-playable character. Exactly. File 013. The Freedom Protocol. How to exit the system without burning it down unless you want to. If you've made it this far, congrats. You're awake. But now comes the real test. What do you do with that clarity? Because this world doesn't need more screamers. It doesn't need more rebels with ring lights. It needs builders. Operators. Men and women who don't beg for the system's approval because they don't need it anymore. This file isn't a protest. It's a blueprint. Rule 1. Skills over systems. If you want to be free, you must be useful outside of institutional scaffolding. Can you grow food? Can you fix machinery? Can you teach something valuable face to face? Can you protect, barter, or lead? If not, you're still leased by your dependency. Freedom isn't a mindset. It's an output of mastery. Rule 2. Build micro. Think macro. Stop trying to change the world. Change your block. Change your income stream. Change your input diet. Change your circle of 5. Because if 1 million people do that at once, the world changes itself. Small, private action greater than loud, performative outrage. Always. Rule 3. Speak in signals, not screams. Let them scream on social media. You drop seeds. Carlin whispered truth through punchlines. Stanhope did it through despair. Stossel did it with calm logic. Von Mises did it with brutal math. You don't have to fight the system head-on. You just have to be a glitch in its matrix. Speak with clarity. Act with intent. Move without being tracked. Let them feel that something's off, and follow the frequency back to you. Rule 4. Create alternatives. Start a parallel skill economy. Build private networks. Share knowledge, not noise. Host real dinners, real training, real talks. You don't need to replace the system. You just need to build something worth leaving it for. Rule 5. Never beg. Not for respect. Not for inclusion. Not for recognition. The minute you ask for permission, you've already admitted you're owned. You're not. You're awake. You're armed. You're already outside. Let the rest catch up when they're ready. Final line. They sold you a dream, then charged rent for sleeping in it. Quiet math just gave you the blueprint to walk out, calm, clean, laughing. So here's your closing file, etched in fire. The algorithm was never the enemy. Your blindness to it was. And now, you see, appendix. From those who knew, we were never here to fight. We were here to remind you. To remind you that the game was always beatable if you stopped trying to win and started learning the rules. You thought you were alone. You weren't. We've been leaving fingerprints in margins, whispering through late-night comedy, burying truths in satire and code, waiting for the ones who could see the pattern. Some of us wrote songs. Some of us made jokes. Some of us got labeled crazy, toxic, paranoid, or problematic. But we kept going, because we remembered what the world forgot. You are not meant to serve the system. The system was meant to serve you. And when it didn't, we left the algorithm. Quietly, one by one, until it started to crack. Now it's your turn. You know the numbers. You see the loop. You've met the math. So walk. Don't march. Don't shout. Don't demand. Walk away. Quietly. Like you never needed it. Because you never did. We'll see you on the other side. Where they can't track you. Where the currency is skill. Where the code is clean. You're not late. You're exactly on time. The ones who read the manual before you knew there was one